And this queen 5 off is yet another very close one, and I would tend to fold here. If you know that these guys are pretty much pushovers, you can shove very wide, possibly up to any 2 cards in certain fairly extreme situations, but certainly queen 5 off. If these guys have stats of like 13/3, and you think they're going to under-defend, then by all means shove it. Against decent players, though, well, it's pretty close. I would just toss this. Something like queen 7 suited, though, would be a very clear shove. King 9 suited here is a shove. So I don't like this fold. Generally, the criteria for having a profitable ISO shove are that you want to have a plus EV call against the shover if you knew that everyone else was going to fold. So here, this guy's on a super wide range. There's a ton of overlay. If we knew somehow that these guys were going to fold, we definitely have a profitable call here against them. And the other thing, though, so we are exposing the effective stack if we put it in here. So essentially, this is a shove-fold decision, as we're not super deep with these players. And if he had folded to us, you could definitely shove the king 9 suited here, particularly with the button being a bit shorter. And so both of those criteria hold. And I would absolutely 3-bet shove this king 9 suited. And spots like this are really key in MTT S&G and Turbo MTT, because a ton of it just comes down to getting heads up against wide ranges with non-premium hands and taking advantage of a tremendous amount of overlay. If you get involved in a ton of these, you're going to win a lot, you're going to lose a lot, but you're subsidized tremendously from the overlay, and that's going to turn that into a winning proposition. And sure enough, the poker gods taunt us by having us would have flopped a flush. So if you need any more reason, then you can be results oriented and say, well, I would have flopped a flush, so it's got to be a decent shove. E6 suited, I would open shove here. So essentially, even though we have a stack of over 40 blinds, we're always going to be looking at the effective stack. And in this case, that's going to be the small blind having about 60k. A couple of these guys are even shorter. And so post-ante, this should be a nicely profitable shove. And we talked earlier about an early position raising range and how a lot of the time you can just sort of default. But here, well, first of all, even if this were deeper, it wouldn't necessarily be crazy to open a suited ace in the low jack. But even if as a default you fold there, you've got to look at the effective stack, because let's say that a number of these players all have 2 or 3 blinds. You're leaving a lot behind on the table if you fold. And so here, this would be a spot that I would open shove. Okay, king 5 off would definitely call if the small blind open shoves. You'd be shoving about a 5 blind stack. As a default rule, when the small blind is shoving 5 blinds, and you have a hand even as weak as king deuce off, you can call him. And now I just open shove. So we might be a little bit suspicious, depending on his stats, that he's open limping. But bear in mind, if we shove and he calls us, and he has aces, and he's really proud of himself, he has entrapped us. Because if he had open shoved, we would have called him. And so the fact that we put in our stack in this situation doesn't mean we're trapped, even if that happens. So the vast majority of the time, I would just shove there. And managed to river a straight. Pretty sweet. Nine 7 is a toss. Jack 6 a couple of times. Jack 9 suited, I would open raise in the cutoff. And you can either min raise, you can raise a little bit more than the min. I wouldn't even go as high as 2.5x. So the trendy raise is to like 16,188 or whatever. And so that's cool. Min raising's cool. 17,000's cool. But definitely 18 or 19,000 would tend to be the most you need to raise. And when he 3-bet shoves about 20 blinds, we'll just toss it.